What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Berk, aka Dansweight here, and welcome to special episode number 7 of the Final Fantasy VII Attack Only Challenge. And boy is this a fun one, because it's going to be quite a bit different to the ones you've been seeing up until this point. Now before we get into it, as always, thank you all so much for the support, really loving this series from the content creator standpoint as well. Do appreciate all the love. Please do remember to drop a like if you're continuing to enjoy the series. It has been really helping a lot, and this series has been a success once again, thanks to all of your support. So without much further ado, let's get into it and start talking immediately about what's next in the Final Fantasy VII Attack Only Challenge. Okay, my friends, up until this point, things have been relatively pedestrian. If I have to kind of summarize the experience, I would say that Final Fantasy VII's been a pretty easy attack-only game. Like, especially, I don't have that much to compare to, but compared to the Final Fantasy X run that I've done so far, I think Final Fantasy VII overall has been easier. We've definitely had some close calls and some more difficult battles, of course, but overall at least, there's been nothing that's truly stumped me or put me in trouble or forced me to do like a really significant grind or anything like that, and so I would say it's been relatively easy so far for someone who has done their fair share of Final Fantasy challenge material over the years. Now that all changed at the end of last session when out of nowhere Diamond Weapon really threw a spanner in the works and, well, lived up to its name, because Diamond, hardest substance on Earth, and we just could not do any damage to it, and so I ended the session just waiting, just seeing what the hell was going to happen. Was there any way that I could somehow damage this thing? And if I can't, is this the end of the run? How can I bend the rules? How can I just continue going without fundamentally breaking the rule of selecting attack as my only command in the game? And so buckle up, my friends, because especially for those of you guys like me who are not experts at this game, I think you're going to find this one particularly interesting to see my thought process and the things I tried to see if I could get past Diamond Weapon in this challenge. Let's take a look at the situation. So I have a very strong party that has been wiping the floor with most of what we've met so far, but there is a very fundamental issue here that we simply cannot do any damage with our physical attacks. It's immune to physical attacks. So it's a very it's binary, either it's immune or it's not. So there's nothing you can do. You can attack it as many times as you like, it's not going to change. Now that being said, again, this wasn't something I researched in advance. I was kind of just pretty much steamrolling through most of the game, and I was just thinking, yeah, I can pretty much just blast out everything at this stage, and I was pretty confident I'd make it all the way to Sephiroth and probably complete the game. And then this happened and I was kind of like, whoa, okay, hold on, what the hell do we do now? And so the first battle that I had against it, I literally did nothing. I just waited, and I wanted to see, is it potentially one of these things where if you survive X number of turns in the battle, suddenly it has like a phase change and it becomes like not immune to physical attacks anymore? Or if the party members are below a certain level of HP, then does it activate? I didn't know if there were any triggers like this, and so the first thing I did was literally just take the battle through until the end. Now, this took a very long time, and you're watching it in the background, you won't see all of it, but I basically wanted to first of all confirm 100% that there was absolutely nothing I could do by just sort of standing there and pressing the attack command with the setup that I had. And that was very much confirmed. It took like another 10-15 minutes or something. I waited it out, but it didn't happen, and so Diamond Weapon managed to defeat the party, and was the first time a boss not only defeated me, but had me well and truly stumped and worried for the future of the challenge. So immediately I decided not to try and jump back into this one, because you've seen a few times where I've lost against bosses and I'm like, yeah, let's just go straight back in, give it another go. With this one, the issue with the boss was so clear that there was no point kind of going back in with the same setup, like nothing was going to change. And so at this stage I was just like, maybe I should just sort of see what is possible. Are there any other materials I can get? Is there any kind of combination I can find? Is there anything I can do in the meantime to improve my chances? And I started to have a look at the boss itself. I went into the wiki, I had a look at some of the AI and some of the stats and all of that kind of stuff, and I tried to figure out a strategy for trying to defeat this guy. Now, what I will say, I will keep it a little bit suspenseful, because people who are experts of the game will already know what I have to do here. But for those of you guys, I think the majority who are like me that don't know, it might be fun for you to kind of see the steps. Now, what I did find out was that, first of all, yes, there is a way to deal physical damage to this enemy. And so that was already like the spark that I needed. So it is possible to do something to Diamond Weapon to make it not immune to physical attacks anymore. And so armed with this information, I decided to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because I wanted to also take a break from this and kind of see if I could get something else in the meantime. So I decided to head back to Gold Saucer and to Battle Square, because it had been on my mind, and I really wanted to see, now that I have a bunch more things like Ribbon, for example, and like the Hades materia, can I put together some kind of combination that can win me all of the Battle Square battles? Yeah, that sounded smoother in my head. Battle Square battles. And get some of the perks from that, because there are quite a few things to be obtained from Battle Square. Things like, for example, Speed Plus materia. If you get enough battle points, you can obtain some of those. And then later on, if you really can go for it, if you figure out a way to defeat those battles, then you can get things like Championship Belts, you can get the W Summon, and you can also get Omni Slash. And so I decided to just dip back in. So we're going to take a bit of a detour here. I actually spent quite a long time in Battle Square, because so much of the battle is obviously RNG. Which enemy sets are going to come up and which debuffs are you going to take and all that kind of stuff. I spent hours in Battle Square just trying to see if I can string together some like 8 victory streaks so that I could get some battle points on the board. Now what I won't do is, I'm not going to show you guys obviously like even like a highlights of most of that. I'm going to skip ahead to the first time I was successful in Battle Square and I was able to take out every single battle that came my way. Now before it, I will quickly show one battle, of course, because if there's one battle that we all hate, it's of course this arsehole, the ghost ship that comes in with that Gonai move, Gonai, whatever it's called, and it kicks you out of the battle and there's nothing you can do about it. So that is RNG, whether that one comes up or not, but the fact that you can even get to ghost ship is a good sign that it is going to be possible. And yes, unfortunately this stupid move happened to me multiple times before I got the first win. So let's have a look at the setup. I decided to go for Big Boy Barrett just because he's the tankiest and he has the long range naturally, so that means more materia slots for other things. In terms of equipment, I gave him the Escort Guard armor and I gave him his AM cannon, which was the most powerful weapon I had at the time. And in terms of the accessory, I actually went for the Curse Ring, which you might think, well, why not go for Ribbon? I didn't want to go for that one because I already had added effect plus Hades available for my armor, and so that kind of made Ribbon mostly obsolete. And so I decided to go in with this setup. Let's have a look at this successful run of Battle Square with Barrett. By this stage, I kind of got used to which enemies I wanted to see and didn't want to see in the first round, so there was a few times I basically skipped it if they were enemies I didn't like. And so this set was fine, so I decided to go for it. Low damage and Flame Dance. You can see, I mean, 218 is decent, but hopefully not going to be too much of a problem here. And once the counterattack kicks in, he's slicing through them pretty fast. Now, down 5 levels is not the end of the world, I guess. Here, Choco Mog Materia is doing the job. I do double damage there. Poison, I'm protected against because of Hades in the materia slot for the armor, but you can see like they survived a 3,200 hit, so definitely not like super easy or anything. And in hindsight, like obviously you want ultimate weapons to really blast your way through this even more easily, of course, because they ignore defense, but at the moment I decided to just go with what I had. And well, you saw in the last session I'd missed the Conformer, so it wasn't something that was particularly on my mind. And honestly, I kind of forgot about that property in Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, I know it very well in Final Fantasy X and the Celestial weapons, but I forgot if in Final Fantasy VII they ignored defense as well. So, yeah. It was a good option, but I didn't take it for this particular run. So these guys, again, no problem. And that Hades materia is putting in good work at the moment. It's very good attackingly and it's very good defensively too, of course. And you can see, like, the effects of the Fury Ring, like, the countdown seems to disappear in later rounds, but I assume I still get the positive like, stat boost from it. But we're going well so far. I mean, again, that Choco materia coming in handy, doing more damage here. The shorter these battles are, the better. This guy should be easy. Counter-attack there. Okay, that's a bit nasty, but it does 0. Okay. Yep, I have the Hades materia once again, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be okay. 300 damage isn't going to be too much of a problem here. seems to be just using Frozen Beam. Fair play. There's the bad breath. Let's see what happens. Pretty much nothing. Hades for the win. So here we go. Yep, all of my materia broke, and we're facing Serpent. So this was the reason I was able to win, because we're facing an enemy whose primary attack can't do anything to you, because I have protection against those elements. So all I need to do is grind it down. And so this is basically like a guaranteed win. It can't really do anything to me here. And so this ended up being very easy. Even this probably took like an hour or two of just messing around in the battle arena to get. And so yeah, it definitely wasn't the easiest, but once you get the right encounters for these, it can definitely make a big difference. Like you can see, this guy's got a ton of HP, but the move variety isn't there to give you any trouble here. So it's a very different experience to facing Ghost Ship in the final round. It's only a matter of time. And well, the funniest part is that eventually it runs out of MP basically, and it can't use its move anymore. And so it's really just completely impotent, and it's just, you just have to hack it down. There it is. So yeah, you just have to keep wearing it down. It does have a ton of HP. So having said all that, Dragoon Dance came in, but it missed, so I'm not really sure. But there you go. Managed to get the win, and with that I get my first big chunk of battle points. And with this one I decided to spend them on speed plus materia. I figured at the end of the day, if I can get these wins in, then I can stack these points up relatively easily. Now what happened for the next hour or so was that I stuck around in Battle Square, and I tried my best to kind of do lots of damage. I tried my best to get lots of battle points and get myself some more stuff, etc. But it didn't really work out how I planned to. I still wasn't winning regularly enough, and after a time I just started to get bored of it. The benefits that I could get from there were like, you know, there was some cool stuff I could pick up, but they didn't seem essential. And well, especially as it pertains to Diamond Weapon, I felt like, yeah, what's the point? Let's just, let's get out of here. So I did spend a lot more time here, but eventually I decided to move on from Battle Square. So I did focus my attention back to Diamond Weapon, but there was no point, again, just going back there and just trying to fight again without having some kind of plan. And so I needed to take some time and really research what to do and figure out a strategy and see if there was a way to break through this really frustrating immunity that was like basically ending the run at this point. And so thankfully there was a way to do it. Now there was two ingredients basically. The first one was figuring out how to break through the immunity, and then once I did break through the immunity, then I had a secondary problem as well. So we'll deal with the immunity first, and then we'll see what I did next. Okay, so let's tackle the first and biggest problem with Diamond Weapon. When I looked into the boss and its kind of AI moveset, wiki entry, all of that kind of stuff, I quickly learned that the only way to disable this physical immunity is to hit it with summons. Not once, but twice. And so yes, this does mean that depending on how you look at these challenges, basically it ends at Diamond Weapon. There is no way to get through it without seeing some kind of summon appearing on screen if all you're doing is attack only. Now that's one side of the spectrum, to just say, okay, the challenge is over, forget it, there's no point continuing, just fire up the next thing. Then there's the other side of the spectrum saying, since you can't do it like pure full attack only anyway, let's just bypass it, who cares, let's just kind of cheat through, and then just continue on and see what else we can do. That option definitely didn't satisfy me, and so I was like, I've got to be able to find something, basically where I can still stick to my fundamental aim of only selecting the attack command or doing nothing. And so what can I do to use summons to break through this guy's barrier while not actually selecting them as summons? And again, people who know the game really well will already know the answer to this, but for me I had to do a little research, and I figured out that there's multiple ways to do this passively using your materia. Now the first one is to get the final attack materia, and this was partly why I was starting to invest in Battle Square. Once I read that this was possible, I figured maybe like that's something I have to do, maybe get like a final attack materia, let a party member get KO'd, and then when you get KO'd, final attack comes in, so you can pair this with a summon, so that when your character gets taken out, it can unleash a summon upon death. And so that's one way that you can use a summon. Then I realized that this is probably going to be an incredibly big farm and just not worth really doing, and so I decided to leave that one out. Then there is the sneak attack materia, which basically allows you to perform an action at the start of the battle preemptively before anything else happens. Again, you can pair this with a summon materia, And so you can come into the battle and you can use a summon. Now, since you need to use 2 of them, it doesn't really work as well. So unless you have like W summon plus sneak attack or something, it's not really going to work. So there's ways around it, but these are super farming, super grindy kind of methods. Then thankfully there was the third method, which was my favorite because it was one that I was already prepared for, I just didn't realize it. And that is to use magic counter. This materia, if you pair it with a summon, there is a chance that when you get attacked, you will respond with the paired summon. And so this was the way forward. So for me this was cool and it was satisfying enough because I could stick to not having to basically select anything other than attack in the menu, but of course obviously I'm having to rely on a summon. To further balance this out, I tried to use the weakest summon that I had so I wouldn't benefit from the damage. So if I could have a summon do 0 damage, then that would be great. Basically it would just be a means to an end, would help me break the immunity and then I could continue on. I wanted to use something like Shiva, for example, one of the weakest ones, and then that way I could still basically do almost all of the damage still with my characters, and that would be like a nice sort of middle ground where I could defeat Diamond Weapon in kinda attack only, and not have to just sort of completely cheat my way through, bypass it, or just abandon the challenge because of the immunity. And so as a result of this, what I decided to do was to spend some time in the Sunken Gelnica, because I wanted to boost my levels a little bit more, but more importantly, I wanted to power up my magic counter materia, because basically it's not once but twice that you need the magic counter materia to kick in if you want to deactivate this immunity. And so I figured if I only have a 1-star magic counter, it's going to take a lot of RNG to make this work. And so I figured I can level that up, and during that time I can also obviously make my characters a bit stronger, level up some more materias, and basically do all of that stuff. I spent about 45 minutes or so in the Sunken Gelnica, like it wasn't like a mega grind session or anything, and I gained a few more levels and I leveled up my magic counter materia to a more satisfactory level that would give me more of a chance of actually seeing it in battle, and well, not just once, but twice. And so while I'm talking about all this, obviously I would have shown some of this in the background, but let's move forward to the next attempt against Diamond Weapon with me having a lot more preparations in place. Okay, so let me show you guys the first true attempt where damage was dealt against Diamond Weapon. Let's see how this went. Okay, we're going to have to wait. I've got a few things here. Basically, this was a test battle. I wasn't going to take this to be like my actual battle for the video. And so I've got a few things in place here that ordinarily like I wouldn't have. But I just wanted to, this was a proof of concept. And so Diamond Dust comes in. This is the first time a summon's been used in this challenge. I'm still just selecting attack only. This is a passive effect, but obviously I would have loved it if I didn't have to rely on this. But as you can see, nothing has happened. We're still doing 0 damage. We need that second summon to trigger if we want to get the damage done. So it's a waiting game. Obviously we're being stomped in the meantime, but generally we can last in a battle for a very long time. So thanks to our HP plus materia, back row, sadness, all of the work that we've been doing up until this point, we are in a pretty tanky position, and we do need quite a bit of time to make sure these trigger. And so there is the second Diamond Dust, and now from here what's going to happen is that it's going to use something called Countdown, and during the countdown it is susceptible to physical damage. There's Countdown, and now I can bombard it and try to take out all of its HP before I get killed. So let's have a look here. The countdown is not very long, and I'm not doing a crazy amount of damage here because we don't have a lot of time. And so already there is no chance that I'm going to be able to kill Diamond Weapon before it uses this big move that's coming up. And so this is still pretty concerning because, well, how many summons am I going to be able to realistically trigger here before I die? Diamond Flash comes in. This takes away 7/8 of your maximum HP and gives you these statuses too. So look at those HP bars now. And we're back to doing 0 damage. So we need to survive for long enough to summon 2 more times. And that was looking increasingly unrealistic here. So we managed to crack the physical immunity, partially I guess. But we're now having trouble staying alive. Because that attack is, there's no way to stop it doing that much damage from what I know. And well, after that we can only survive basically 1 more stomp each. So this is pretty concerning, and well, as you can see, we're not seeing any more Diamond Dust either. So yeah, it was a good strategy. This was very promising, But we weren't quite there yet because this guy has 30,000 HP and we were nowhere near doing 30,000 there. So yeah, as close as we got and as sort of exciting as the breakthrough was, it wasn't enough. We got taken out. As soon as Barrett got taken out as well, it was game over. We had no more summon opportunities here. And so my first true real attempt where I had a shot of winning didn't go so well, and Diamond Weapon managed to take me out once again, despite me bending the rules to almost breaking point and doing everything I could to get by. So yeah, after this battle as well, it was 2-0 to Diamond Weapon. So what now, I hear you say? Well, I previously mentioned that there were two parts to this fight. The first one was figuring out how to break the immunity, and the second part, now that you've seen how it went after doing part 1, is trying to do enough damage that you take it out before it uses the big move. So we really have to up our damage game if we're to stand any kind of chance. And how do we do that? It's the aforementioned ultimate weapons that ignore defense. That was the second key. And so what I did, I returned to the Sunken Jellica, and this time I finally picked up the Conformer, because as of this point I can't get all of the ultimate weapons or anything like that. So whoever can get an ultimate weapon, that's who I need in the team, because the amount of damage we're going to do is going to be significantly different once we have someone with an ultimate weapon. So as a result of this, basically I had the Conformer, which meant that Yuffie had to be in the front line, and I also had the Venus Gospel for Sid, and so Sid was in the front line too. So it was going to be Cloud, Sid, and Yuffie. So it's a bit of an unorthodox team here, but that was the team that had the best damage potential for me, because two of them had their ultimate weapons. And so in terms of putting together the ingredients to win this battle, it was going to be the Conformer plus Venus Gospel, it was going to be Magic Counter plus Shiva, it was going to be Elemental Materials plus Lightning based attacks because we want to do as much damage as possible, it was using stuff like Fury Ring for Berserk to do as much damage as possible, and then for Sid I also gave him an accessory to make him as fast as possible. So now with this final set of preparations done, let's have a look at how the battle went against Diamond Weapon. So the magic count is only at a level 2, it's nothing crazy, but even that gives me a 40% chance of getting it. And the best part of this whole thing is that I didn't have to do anything too crazy to get the magic counter. You pick it up from the icy kind of section of the game, the snowstorm. And so if you, for whatever reason, missed it and there's no other way to get it, you can do Chocobo racing to get it. But for me at least, I had it in my inventory anyway. I didn't have to do anything. So as you can see, Sid has the most HP. I deliberately did that so that he's the one that's most frequently going to be attacked. And that's going to give us the highest chance of seeing Shiva get summoned. So let's see how this goes. Not a great start, but I guess the others having lower HP just means the stomp's going to hit Sid for even longer. So it's not the end of the world here. But just picking on Yuffie a lot for some reason. But it is mostly a waiting game. Here we go. First attack on Sid. He heals from it, which is nice, but no sign of Shiva yet. And do we get it? No, we don't. So it's a bit of a slow start here. And well, at this point, I also wasn't sure how much damage I was going to do with these ultimate weapons that ignore defense. This is going to be the first display of what ultimate weapons can truly do in this game. There's another trusty stomp. Nope, still nothing from Sid. He gets attacked again. So it's been four times now, still nothing. I think there's a 40% chance that it triggers, but not working yet. At this stage, I was starting to get a little bit concerned. I was like, come on, man, I know that I can do better than this. I've had attempts where basically I got the first two Shiva summons way more quickly in the previous attempt that I showed you guys. There's another stomp. Finally, Okay, the first Diamond Dust comes in. It took like 7 hits or something for Sid to summon here. But summon he did. Now, of course, you can abuse this type of stuff to kind of make it an attack-only challenge, and then just rely on this stuff to like passively use summons and stuff. Obviously, that's not what I'm going to do, but since I really had to resort to something like this, it was the only way that I could find. If anyone can find a way to purely do it with attack only, then do let me know. There we go. Sid getting healed is obviously good. The more his HP stays high, the more likely he is to get stomped. And of course you wait all that time, 7 times in a row, no summon, and then basically within 2 or 3 turns, you get both summons. So here we go. Let's see how much damage we're now going to do. So we've got 30,000 to take out, and a relatively short countdown. I did give Sid the haste as well, just in case it helps him get an extra turn or 2. Every little helps. Let's see what happens here. So Shiva only did like 1,300 of the damage here. It's going to be almost completely the party members with their attack doing the damage. And here we go. Berserk plus Lightning Elemental plus Ultimate Weapon. What kind of damage are we dealing for someone like Yuffie? 829 for Cloud, terrible. 6,500 for Yuffie. And there's a difference, my friends. So if it was just... if we had no ultimate weapons in this challenge, again, this battle would look very different, and we would probably have to do a lot of farming. We'd have to get like multiple magic counter materials, so we'd have to do like chocobo racing. All 3 characters would have to have like a magic counter materia, and it would have got very nasty and very grindy if I didn't have these ultimate weapons. But thankfully, with those, we managed to do enough damage. We got it done very quickly once the countdown began, and I finally defeated Diamond Weapon. So after a few hours away, most of those hours were spent in Battle Square, which wasn't really necessary in the end, and about an hour or so, maybe 45 minutes on the Jelnica, we got the job done. So I'm very relieved. This was like a massive wall for me. I think it took like a couple of days, I think, of like researching and like reading up the wiki, testing things and all that kind of stuff. But I was very relieved to be able to come through this battle, because it really caught me by surprise. I just was not expecting it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too, because that was seriously a completely different ball game compared to everything that we've been facing so far. And it required a whole different level of thinking and preparation. And well, of course, it required me to basically bend/break the rules to a degree as well in order to get through. But hey, we do these challenges for the fun, for the entertainment. It's not, for me, like attack-only challenges. They're not like hardcore enough to be taken super seriously. And it's like, oh no, like if I can't do this, I won't even bend the rules. It's too serious a challenge for me to do anything like that. It's mostly for fun and not for bragging rights or achievement or anything like that. So I'm definitely like more happy to bend rules for attack only than maybe some of the other stuff that I've done in the past, because obviously it's always more fun to find ways to make progress even if you bend the rules, and well, you get to see more enemies and fight more battles once you do as well. So let's move on after quite a long delay at Diamond Weapon to see what we got next, now that we can return back to Midgar to really start getting towards the end of the story. So let's say the same setup as I'm running towards Midgar. Yeah, 3,600 on a regular move. And even Cloud, 1,500. Obviously, random encounters at this stage, especially once you start getting ultimate weapons in the mix as well, it's not going to be too big of a problem here. We have seen the utility of ultimate weapons, and as we get towards the end of the game, enemies are going to have more and more defense, they're going to have more and more HP, and it's going to become increasingly difficult to just hack your way through them with regular weapons. So I decided to do the only normal thing, which would be to try and fight ultimate weapon so that I could get Cloud's ultimate weapon, which is ultimate weapon. And so yeah, I set out on my mission to do that. I stuck with my ultimate weapon party. I'm having to say that a lot right now. But yeah, obviously against something of that power, I'm obviously going to prefer my weapons that ignore defense. So I decided to hunt down ultimate weapon and give it a go and see if we can basically just, without too much extra preparation, just take it down and see what we can do. For this one, I added a reflect ring into the mix. And I also read that basically one of Ultimate Weapon's attacks can be nullified if you have a level 2 elemental plus a non-elemental magic materia linked to it. So I gave that a go. It wasn't something that I tried up until this point, but I decided to give it a go. And so let's head in towards Ultimate Weapon with 100,000 HP, basically the highest HP that we faced in the game so far, and see if we can defeat our first optional, like, powerful boss of the run. Here we go. Can we make it 2 weapons in 1 episode? Come straight in with an ultimate beam. Let's have a look here. And you can see there Sid with 0 damage. But the other 2, they took about 1,000 damage. It's not terrible. I was kind of expecting worse, honestly. And comes back with 2,788, 4,200. That's pretty good. That's 7,000 for those 2 together. So that's pretty promising damage here. So again, protection here. Made sure that did nothing. And that's it. Remember, this fight happens in multiple stages, so you do enough damage to it, it's going to fly away. So you have to play this like chasing game. So didn't do too much to us on that first attempt. Thankfully, it's not kind of all 100,000 at once at the moment. And so we'll see what happens on the next encounters as we have to chase it down. Okay, here we go. Time for round 2. This time I gave Sid a Fury Ring as well. Ultimate Beam. Still a nice 0 for Sid. And yeah, 5,796 damage thanks to the Fury Ring. Just really starting to see some like end game, very powerful damage here thanks to the ultimate weapons. Yep, 0 once again. But its most powerful attack is still to come. We haven't seen that yet, but we're fighting it at a pretty rapid pace, and I made a mistake there. Wow, I didn't realize Cloud didn't have his long range materia. I messed up there, but yeah. The second battle also no problem. Time to fight it again here on top of Fort Condor. Let's see how this one goes. Bit of a weird angle here, not sure why it did that. But that swipe was pretty mean. I mean, it was over 1,000 damage. Ultimate Beam once more. Doesn't take long for it to get used. And the same answer as before. But Yuffie's down to almost half HP here. So she's getting hit pretty hard. But there you go. That's a bit more likely. I think she got critical last time. But before the battle even truly has a chance to get going, we've already done enough damage. And Ultimate Weapon flies off once again. Alrighty, here we go again. Ultimate Weapon just can't get enough. Well, I guess we can't get enough. It keeps running away, and we keep going for it. But yeah, I think what I did here, because I remembered now, because I only had 1 long-range materia, I kind of had to sacrifice Cloud doing nothing here. That's what I realized. Because I don't have a second long-range character that has an ultimate weapon at this point. And so, yeah, that's why Cloud is kind of obsolete here. I remembered that now. It's been a little while since I recorded this stuff, but that makes sense now. That's why that long-range materia was so crucial, otherwise it would have been much harder. But the 2 of them together doing basically 10,000 damage every time. It's really making the battle work pretty well. We haven't even seen its big move yet. It's not lasting long enough for that. And so we fight it yet again. Surely now, we must be near the end of this. So far at least, we've not really been in any danger at this point. But we still need to see its biggest attack before we can truly say that we're safe. It's not going to get us with like ultimate beams and swipes and that kind of thing. It needs to do something bigger than that. And so ultimately, no pun intended, I chase it down one more time, and this should be the final ultimate weapon battle. Honestly, the battles aren't even taking long enough for it to use its biggest move here. So even an optional enemy like ultimate weapon is being absolutely sliced down here. With basically 2 out of 3 characters. Yeah, just healing us up too. Thank you for that. There it is. Finally. Okay. Can we survive Shadow Flare? This is the big test. If we survive this, we're basically fine. And well, we had the Reflect Ring. And there you go. Job done. 8,000 damage done back to it. So yeah, Ultimate Weapon has been defeated in attack only. Now, compared to the other weapons, honestly, it's weirdly the weakest weapon in this challenge. Usually you're supposed to probably struggle more with Ultimate Weapon than you are with Diamond Weapon, but in this challenge it was very different. And well, of course, Emerald and Ruby, I will be honest, I haven't recorded it, but depending on how the series goes and how people are feeling by the end of it, I might make a return just to make like one more episode on Emerald and Ruby. I would assume they're probably impossible. I don't know, I'm trying to remember back. Again, it's been like 4 or 5 years since I defeated them, and so I forget exactly how I did it. Emerald seems definitely impossible to me, but maybe Ruby isn't, I'm not sure, but we'll have a look. For now at least, that's the second weapon in one episode that has been defeated. Now we can truly head towards Midgard because we now have 3 ultimate weapons, and we can really start heading up towards the finish. Now, even though Sid does have his ultimate weapon, he's had a really good run in the team, but I do drop him back to the bench basically because I still prefer to have my long range characters, and Barrett will hopefully get an ultimate weapon eventually. And hopefully it won't be too long before Barrett gets an ultimate weapon as well. So we are going with Barrett, Yuvi, and Cloud as our party. At this stage, you know the deal. Stuff like added effect plus Hades for the weapons, just to give any of the status effects that we can muster. Using things like Ribbon if needed. If not, just going for Fury Rings for more damage, or Curse Rings, that kind of thing. And at this stage, a lot of the armors that we have already guard against multiple elements. I don't have to use the elemental material defensively. I can do like elemental plus lightning or plus Ramu to do better against mechs and all that kind of stuff. So due to the sheer number of slots, it always takes me a while to get set up again. But once I do, it's generally not too big a deal. So let's begin. First, random encounters here. We've got a preemptive attack, and I hit for quad 9 with the Fury Ring plus the ultimate weapon for Cloud. So yeah, welcome to the end game, ladies and gentlemen. And I managed to get a second cover material. That's nice. At this stage as well, those HP pluses are really starting to get powerful. A lot of them are like 4-star, 5-star, and so as a result, you can see the HP is really like shooting up pretty strongly here. And well, I felt like I was going to need every single one. You just can't like underestimate the game in that sense, because all it takes is, for example, like the diamond weapon situation where, let's say, the ultimate weapons did less damage, and so you would definitely have to take one of those big moves and you lose 7/8 of your HP. Then like you need to survive long enough after that to make sure that you continue to be able to win the battle. And so if you ignore the HP too much and you're not continuing to kind of work on those HP plus materials and that kind of thing, then it could come back to bite you in the ass when you don't expect it. So definitely trying to make sure I keep everything going here. But you can see, I mean, the random encounters, if you're attacking with a ultimate weapon, is basically a one-hit KO. And if you're attacking with a regular one, it's more of a 2-hit KO. But nothing of any kind of danger here. There's a few more things to pick up, of course. There's chests and all that kind of stuff. So I still did my due diligence and made sure I kind of explored around as much as I could and picked up everything that was available. And as always, I will show you some of the stuff that I did pick up along the way. Now, while we were down here, we did encounter an enemy that did make me pause for a second to think, maybe this could be something interesting, but no. Yeah, so if even when stuff like behemoths come up, if you're one-hit KOing it, then there's not much else to talk about for random encounters. You just keep rolling. And eventually, I do pick up a Max Ray as well for Barrett. So let's take a look at that. Long-range weapon. It's not his ultimate weapon, but it's obviously better, and so we can equip that. Especially when it's not an ultimate weapon, every little is going to help. Eventually, we head for what is the true final showdown against Reno, Rude, and Elena, aka the Turks. This will be the last time we fight them, and collectively they have about 80,000 HP. So they're definitely not pushovers in terms of their HP, but I mean, in general, obviously, you're starting to see the sheer damage output that we have here. And even for boss battles like this, like these guys are not going to be able to withstand more than like 5 or 6 hits from these guys. And so, yeah, you can see, I mean, the fact that it's 3-on-3 does make things more interesting. And I think if I didn't have any ultimate weapons, I think at this stage I'd really start to feel it, and it would start to get a lot more grindy. But the fact that we do have them, and still defensively, it's kind of the same issue that it's always been. They're just not doing enough damage here. And so it's pretty manic, especially when it's 3-on-3 and all of them are pretty quick. The sheer difference in damage is just too much. And so, yeah, the battle doesn't really last very long at all. The Turks are always fun to fight, but especially at this stage I've really kind of outgrown them and become overpowered. So these guys are definitely ready for the end. I mean, I had to push quite hard to defeat Diamond Weapon. And so in basically kind of discovering or rediscovering the power of the ultimate weapons in terms of ignoring defense, I ended up basically breaking another layer off the game and making things even easier in the run to the finale. We continue on and head inside the Shinra building, and the enemies that we face here, once again, they're not going to be a problem. And so from here we can continue on to the next boss, and probably the final one that I will show for this particular episode. And that is the Proud Clod. Now this again was an enemy that if you'd have asked me like early on in the game which bosses could be a challenge, if you could make it through everything before it, I would have assumed that this one would have been a serious problem, because I would assume like it's very high defense. It's going to do a lot of devastating attacks, it could do multi-character attacks and all of that kind of stuff, has a decent chunk of HP, but now heading into it I was more like, does this guy have some kind of immunity to physical attacks? Like that's become, obviously after Diamond Weapon, that's much more on my mind, and I couldn't recall it having anything like that. I thought maybe its defense is very high, but again that's a non-factor for us now because, well, we've got the ultimate weapons, and so this should be relatively easy. So let's see what happens here. 325, 5,000 there. I mean, it's like 12,000-13,000 absolutely no time. And so yeah, Lightning Elemental, if you do have it, obviously is going to do a bit more damage for you here. But 183, I was so surprised by how little the damage was. Like, yes, okay, back row sadness, etc., but it was really surprising. I was expecting more here. Like, even Diamond Weapon was doing a lot more damage than this guy, and well, Diamond Weapon would have been from a few hours ago in this run, so... yeah, the Proudclad, I don't think it ever was like a super tough battle anyway, like it kind of looks very physically imposing, but I think it's supposed to be a little bit of an anticlimax anyway. I don't remember too much about it. If it was tough, I probably would have remembered. But in this challenge, it's no different, especially, again, if you take away the ultimate weapons, maybe this becomes more interesting. But you're seeing the damage here. I mean, the damage is just so low that even if you're doing, I don't know, 1,000 damage per hit, something like that, 1,000, 1,500 without ultimate weapons, I fail to see how it's going to be able to take you out if you have at least this type of HP/defense. So, yeah, disappointing performance from the Proudclod here. Yeah, it tries to make up for it by getting like multiple moves and that kind of thing, but it's definitely not going to be enough. Critical, 9,000. So Barrett's still not able to do the same level of damage as the others, but he's helping out. It needed to do like 5 times as much damage for this to be a thing. If it was doing like 800 to 1,200 or something, then yeah, maybe like we'd be in business, but honestly, disappointing boss. I really thought it was going to be tougher than that. We get the Ragnarok, but we have ultimate weapons, so we don't need it. And with that, I am going to conclude this episode, and we will be moving on to what I'm hoping will be the final storyline episode in the next one. So I hope you guys have been continuing to enjoy the series. This episode in particular was one I was looking forward to sharing, because when I was doing the recording, obviously, I was like, oh man, like I got really stuck here, and I had to approach this boss in a completely different way, and it required obviously a whole different method to try and beat it. So I hope you're all continuing to enjoy the series as it starts to near its close. I truly do appreciate all of the support this one's been getting as well, and I'm already looking forward to the next series that I will be sharing with you guys. Do pay attention on the channel. I will be dropping like a community poll, and generally asking you guys what you think. Like, do you want to continue with this attack only format for a different Final Fantasy game, or are you looking to watch like something completely different, just come up with a whole new like challenge idea, something like that? Just let me know your thoughts, because you guys, like everybody watching this video at the moment, you guys basically represent the majority of the viewership on the channel. And so if I can get pretty much everyone that's watching this to vote on that, it would be a nice way for me to see like more specifically what the majority of the audience would like to see. And as always, I will do my best to kind of align that with what I want to do and hopefully give you guys the best content that I can. So thank you all so much. Everybody on Patreon, once again, I really do appreciate it. We had a few new ones trickle in, I think due to the suspense of the previous episode, so I do definitely appreciate all of the newcomers as well. It's supporting the channel in a massive way, like more so than I can ever truly explain, but the fact that they continue to trickle in shows me that people do understand how useful it is for content creators, and it really helps us to continue to remain free and do things the way we want to do it. We don't have to rely on like sponsorships and clickbaiting and just appealing to the lowest common denominator, and all of that stuff allows us to make the best content we can make. So I will see you guys for the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. See you soon. Take care.